guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I'm not at home. I'm currently in Sunderland for my work, so I thought I'd do my little race report for the Great North Run while I'm away. So we'll just jump straight into it. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the lead up to the race. So what did I use to train? How did it go? All that kind of stuff. I was using the Runner app. I've used it a couple of times before for 10Ks, and this is the first time I've used it for a half. I really like the app. I think it's got some really great features, and I will definitely be continuing to use it for future races. It does everything from beginning to run all the way through to like multi-day ultramarathon. So it's the sort of thing that you'll never not be able to use. It kind of does everything that you could possibly need, and it includes strength training, which is something I wanted to incorporate more this race. Overall, I'd say that my dedication to training was a little bit sketchy. I found out that the race was massive after I'd got a place through ballot, and I didn't realise that it was quite that big. I thought it was just another generic race, a bit like the Great Bristol Run, Great Birmingham Run. I thought it was another one of those. I didn't realise how big it was. That's on me, that's my bad, I'm sorry. I know now. So there's like 60,000 people that take part, and because of that, I'd been told that it's actually really difficult to get a PB on that course because there's so many people that you can't really like overtake in the same sort of way that you would with another race. So after finding that out, I became slightly demotivated to push myself really, really hard in my training. I did do it from start to finish in terms of the number of weeks, but I definitely did not do every single run, and definitely did not do every strength training that was programmed to me. In hindsight, I kind of wish I had, because I think I would have come out stronger because of that, even if I hadn't have got a PB. Overall, I'm still happy with my performance, and we'll get onto that later, but I didn't quite get what I was hoping for. So yeah, overall, I didn't stick to my training 100%. I would say maybe it was 80% there, and where I didn't stick to it 100%, I did try and do alternative exercises that I thought would benefit me. So for example, I might miss like an easy run or a long run of a set distance, but I would make up for it by going for a hike with more elevation so that I still got some sort of practice in. And overall, I'd say I put in a pretty solid effort, but it just wasn't 100%, and I'd normally like to do it a bit more strict than that. Throughout the race, I think because I'd had pretty consistent training, even if I didn't complete all of it, I felt pretty okay. A half marathon now for me is a very comfortable race. It's not one that I worry about whether I'll finish it or not. Because I hadn't got injured throughout my training, it wasn't something that I was worried about particularly. So throughout the course, I felt pretty okay. I didn't have any moments really where I was really struggling mentally and I hit any walls. I fueled throughout, which helped me sort of keep ticking over. I kept drinking my water, which again helped me keep ticking over. So moving on to the overall race itself, it was such a good course. It was not super engaging in terms of what was physically going on around you. You started on a dual carriageway and there was other sections where you were on a dual carriageway. But that being said, what the course lacked in picturesque beauty, they made up for in entertainment. There were so many people in the crowd the whole race, cheering you on, shouting your name, all the great things about racing that means that you want to keep coming back. It ticked every single box, so that was fantastic. There were so many people there. Everyone had come out with all their really cool signs, and there were so many kids wanting to high five, and it was such a boiling hot day. Like, I was expecting there to not be that many people, but people really did show up around Newcastle, and it really, really made the atmosphere electric for this race. It made me realise why so many people do want to do it, because it is such a great route, such a great course. I'd say I felt pretty okay. There were a few moments when it was hilly, and I thought, oh, I really just don't feel like doing a hill right now. My legs aren't super tired, but I just don't really want to do it. Can we do something else instead? And in moments like that, I just made sure that I was, putting one foot in front of the other, focusing on my breathing in through my nose, out through my mouth, instead of being a mouth breather. So I just kind of focused on that. It was a bit hilly. So yeah, the overall elevation gain was 440 feet, which is definitely more than I'm used to. In London, everything is pretty damn flat. I don't really have that much opportunity to do hills. And if there are hills in London, then they're usually like short, sharp and sweet. There's not really like longer ones that you can practice that you're more likely to get in a race. It just doesn't really happen around London, or at least in the part of London that I live. Having said that, I had done some hiking in the lead up to my race. So I've done a couple of the Wainwrights, including Scarfell Pike. My friend was training for the Three Peaks Challenge, so I'd gone and done a hike with her around Box Hill, and we'd gone and done some of the Southwest Coast Path when we'd been down to Devon and that kind of thing. So I felt like I had the mileage and the elevation in my legs enough for this race. So when it came to the hills, I didn't really feel like they were that much of a burden, but I appreciate that some people that aren't used to doing hills may really struggle with those. I was really surprised at the sheer number of people physically on the course. As I said earlier, I didn't realise that it was so big. 60,000 people, I had no idea. I found it quite difficult at that point because of the sheer number of people in such a short distance, in terms of normally when you get that number of people, it's over a marathon, it's not over a half. So I found it really difficult to try and overtake people. There were times when I found that I was getting stuck behind loads of people, and it's at that point that I realised like a PB is just out of the window, like it's just not going to happen on this particular race. So I just made sure that I was just soaking up all the atmosphere, engaging with the crowds when I could, and just really just focusing on enjoying myself, because especially with the hot weather as well, like it just wasn't worth trying to push myself and get push through other people and ruin other people's experience by trying to get round them. It just wasn't worth it. The weather on the day was absolutely boiling. I mean, it was boiling. I couldn't get over how hot it was. I was sweating before I did anything. I automatically knew that I would need to hydrate up to my eyeballs with water. I had an electrolyte gel before I went and ran. I had a salt tablet before I ran. And I still was getting like a little niggle of a headache as I was running around. It was just ridiculous. I was constantly sweating. I think in the end it reached like 21 degrees, which actually in hindsight isn't that bad. It was like 30 down in London. So I will thank my lucky stars forever that that did not happen to me, because I would have died. I would have died dead. So yeah, it was just boiling. So we really had to be careful. Obviously Lucy with her epilepsy, me just being really susceptible to headaches. We just had to be careful. Everybody had to be careful. We saw so many people, unfortunately, that were on the side of the road that had collapsed or were really struggling with the heat. Thankfully, that's not something that we experienced. We managed to get around all in one piece, which was great. But it really is like food for thought that it's not worth pushing yourself too much when the weather's like that. You can't always account for weather when you're doing your training. We just kind of took the day as it came, and yeah, I decided I wanted to enjoy myself rather than kill myself on that course. So a question I get asked a lot is, how do I fuel for my runs? So some people can get through a half marathon fine without taking any fuel, but I think they say anything over an hour and a half you should consider taking fuel, and I definitely cannot run it in an hour and a half. So I had gels and it was hot, so I definitely needed to have some because I was not risking making myself unwell. So I use Science in Sport gels. I alternate between caffeinated and non-caffeinated just because I've tried them a few times. They're kind of the generic ones that everyone I think starts with, and they've always done me well. I've always got on with them. I've never really had any problems with my tummy or anything like that. So I kind of just stick with them. I use them for the London Marathon, the Manchester Marathon, and then training as well. So I'm very well accustomed to them. I had one before I started, as I said. That one I think was I want to say that was orange flavoured. I then had a berry caffeinated one, which was delish, if you like gels. And then I finished with a cherry one as well. I think going forward, I'm probably going to want to try some different brands just to have a little bit of variety, see what's out there. But I am very happy with the Science and Sport ones. They've done me really well. For water, I always just use whatever's on the course. It was a particularly hot day, so I did have a little bottle of water with me to start, but normally I just take whatever's on the course. I always stop and take a bottle, even if I'm not sure if I want to drink it, just because then at least I've got it and I don't have to worry about will I get it. So what was my time? I did it in 2 hours, 4 minutes and 12 seconds, which I am happy with. I was hoping to get under 2 hours, but given the number of people on the course and the heat and the fact that I hadn't stuck to my training plan 100%, I'm pretty happy with that time. It's actually the fastest half marathon I've run in a little while. I've run loads of half marathons in my marathon training plans, and obviously most of those are like easy runs or they're tempo ones, so there's like set paces that's not usually at race pace. So in terms of racing, the last time I raced a time around that was May last year. So I'm pleased because I haven't run that quickly for that distance in a while, which is nice. It's nice to know that I can still kind of do that. But equally, I felt like I still could have had some left in the tank. So I will definitely be trying to push myself whenever I next race a half, whether that's in the winter this year or in the spring next year, I'm not sure. But I will definitely be trying to push myself to get myself under that lucrative 2 hours. For my recovery afterwards, I did what all good runners do, and I rested. I ate loads of food, and I tried to go to bed early. It's quite difficult to try and go to bed early because often you're kind of like hyped from the adrenaline of the race. So I usually find that the first like week or so after racing, I don't sleep very well. And I'm also not very disciplined at the moment, and I haven't been making myself try and go to bed. It took the first 2 days to do absolutely nothing. I think they say you should take a day off per 10K that you've raced. So that's about 2 days, and I did absolutely nothing. And then when I went back to running after that, I took it very easy, just did a nice easy run. I have to still be mindful of how I'm running because I've got another race again next week now, but in terms of the 2 races, they're 2 weeks apart. So I wanted to make sure that I was still kind of ticking over ready for that race. That one's a 10K, so it's a bit less burdensome. But yeah, so overall I've just been making sure that my glycogen stores are being replenished, my protein is up. I'm usually pretty good at having protein anyway. It's super important after a race to just make sure you're having that so your body can like recoup. My muscles were pretty sore, which kind of surprised me because half marathons are something that I run relatively frequently. But I obviously pushed myself, which seems strange because like I say, I felt like I had more left in the tank. But my body was telling me that it was tired. My quads were achy, my bum was achy, but that kind of subsided after like a day or two. It wasn't too bad. I could walk downstairs and things absolutely fine. But yeah, I was much more sore than I expected to be. And now onto my favourite question. What kit did I use? So I will go through the different parts of the kit that I used from my head to my toe. So I wore sunglasses. The sunglasses I wore were just my normal prescription ones. You can get normal running ones, but my eyesight is not great, so I wanted to be able to see what I was doing. I had headphones. So my headphones were Shocks, and they were the Open Run Pro Minis, and they were great because it meant that I could like play, pause my music whenever I needed to. I could listen to the crowds, I could listen to my music, and they are fantastic. I really rate them. On my body, I wore my hydration vest. It's just a cheap one off Amazon. I have seen lots of people gushing over the Solomon ones, and while they look amazing, I just don't think as a beginner runner that you really need to spend that much money. They are like extortionately expensive. So my one is from Amazon. It's pretty good. I'm not sure how many litres it is, but it's got enough space for like your phone, a couple of gels. Comes with 250ml soft flasks and then a 1.5 litre water bladder. In the future, it's probably not big enough if I want to go on to do an ultra, but for road running where I'm just going to be doing half marathons, I think it's more than sufficient. In terms of my outfit, so I wore a USA Pro sports bra with some Nike shorts. I didn't wear a top, stupidly, because I thought it would be way too hot to have like just an additional layer. But in hindsight, I should have worn it because all that happened was my hydration vest rubbed on my ribs because I didn't have any layers in between. So I won't be doing that again. And then for my socks, I just wore running socks from Runner's Need, just very basic ones. Whatever they sell in there, that's what I was wearing. And then finally my shoes. So I always wear the Nike Air Zoom Pegasus, whatever is the most recent model, but the one before that, because I don't want to spend the money of the recent model. And for me, as a beginner runner, the technology really is not that different that I will notice the difference. I've had the 38s and the 37s and the 39s, and I have not been able to tell the difference between any of them apart from the colour. So for this race, I wore Nike Air Zoom Pegasus 38s in pink, and they are currently on offer in Sports Direct for like £35. So you don't need to spend over like £100 for a pair of running shoes. You can get some cheap ones and they work. They're really good. Overall, I thought that the organisation of the run was pretty good. I thought the course was pretty good. The crowds were great. I thought that they'd done a reasonable effort to put on some extra transport. The metro, which should have been running, would have got a lot of people out of South Shields to the city centre. They put on loads of extra buses, which we ended up getting. The downside was that unfortunately there was flash flooding on that day and the metro got closed because of that. And then there was already road closures, and then there were additional road closures because of the flash flooding. And it just meant it took everybody ages to get out. So that's the only thing that I would say is the negative of the race, was that the weather just didn't play ball in the end, and it meant that lots of people ended up having to walk back into the centre, which obviously isn't ideal after you've just done a half marathon. But I'm hoping that that wouldn't be the case every single year, that it doesn't rain like that every single year. So I would give it overall like a solid 7 out of 10. I know that there would be some traffic issues and some just generally getting back into the centre issues in terms of transport, but I think when you weigh up the whole balance of like the crowds and the course and the general atmosphere, I think it massively way outweighs the slight negatives of trying to get back into the centre. My advice would be that anyone that is looking to do this race, stay over on the Sunday night and just go back on the Monday, because it's just worth it. Whatever you have to pay to do that, I think it's worth it. So I think that covers everything, but if you do have any other questions, please do drop them in the comment box below and I will get back to you. Overall, I had a really great time. I'm so glad that I did such an iconic race, and I'm so glad I got in by ballot. That's just crazy. I would definitely do it again. I would stay over on the Sunday night so I didn't have to deal with all the traffic on that day. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and I'm definitely gonna put my name in for next year and see what happens. So thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you don't already, please subscribe, and please hit the bell icon, because that actually really does help the channel. It helps me get into all sorts of algorithms that hopefully will mean that I can do more of this. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will upload again next Friday. Bye!